She's not struggling, so he must be doing something right. He certainly has a way with leather. Now for the waist. He cinches this strap tight. 2 more to go. Next, he heads below the belt. Ouch, this one is even tighter than her skirt. Still, she doesn't seem to mind. One last strap to go to secure her legs, though she doesn't look like the runaway bride type. He checks the straps one more time, then goes for the headstock. This updated version of the medieval restraining device will prevent her neck and hands from any sudden movements. Just to be sure, the magician padlocks this front stock into place. And you thought your boss was tough. When the magician's assistants say they are all tied up at work, they mean it. But this is the glamour of showbiz. Once he's satisfied his assistant's not able to escape, he pulls a curtain that's designed to encircle the entire contraption. What's this? The curtain's still moving, only the girl is pulling it, and the magician is now locked inside the device. Good for her. Now you know why this illusion is called the assistant's revenge. Bye-bye, masked man. Let's see you get out of this one. So how did our masked magician trade places with his bound and beautiful assistant? Here are the secrets. When the illusion begins, the magician secures his assistant to the rack with the straps. I can assure you that the straps are real. So are the headstock and the padlocks. That's because they never really have to open. So how did the assistant make her quick escape? The frame of the rack is actually made of 2 separate halves. From the back, you can see that hinges along one side allow the rear of the frame to swing open, while Velcro strips along the other side hold it closed. Even though the assistant is really strapped in from the front, she can easily swing open the back and step out anytime she likes. Here you can see her using her fingers to release the Velcro catch and make her escape out of the back. The magician pulls the curtain to block our view of the assistant. As soon as she is hidden, she slips out of the frame and continues pulling the curtain from the other side. Meanwhile, the magician takes her position. As the audience sees that the assistant has switched places with the magician, he is still slipping in to take her place. Here's a secret view of the switch. The assistant pulls open the curtain just as the magician snaps the frame closed, and the illusion is complete. Revenge is sweet, especially when you know the secret.
Next, the startling secrets behind sawing through a woman in an iron cage, conjuring spirits from beyond the grave, and walking through an industrial turbofan without being ripped to shreds. When magic's biggest secrets finally revealed returns.
a medieval torture device. The magician is quite proud of this antique apparatus, and why wouldn't he be? It's an egg-shaped cage made of forged bands of iron. It's empty now, but knowing the magician, this cage won't be empty for long. He calls in two of his assistants who come bearing a small rack. They lift the cage from its heavy-duty mount and place it down on the rack. Here they can remove the hardened steel pins that secure the two halves of the cage. With the front half of the cage removed, we can see how something or someone can be placed inside. Here's someone now, and she's something. The girl assumes the position inside the back half of the cage, and it looks like there is barely enough room for her to make the tight squeeze. Now, two male assistants enter. As she steadies herself, they replace the front of the cage, trapping her inside. I'm getting uneasy just looking at the situation. The steel pins are replaced, and she struggles to find a comfortable arrangement. There isn't one. The male assistants lift the cage and place it into the heavy mount, along with its beautiful cargo. What happens next is anyone's guess. The magician removes the steel pins again and opens the clasps. The two halves separate, but the girl inside isn't going anywhere. His other assistants now cover the sections of the cage with heavy pieces of black canvas. They're careful to stretch the fabric tightly around the cage. Inside, you can bet that the cage is cramped and dark, and no place for a lovely lady to spend an evening alone. The magician motions for another assistant. This one comes bearing a razor-sharp crosscut saw. Just when you thought this device couldn't get any more torturous. The magician steps behind the cage, and you got it. He begins to saw between the two halves, and presumably, the girl. This just isn't her day. It seems like he's having a hard time of it. She looked like a tough cookie. Remember, she's strapped inside with nowhere to go. He's made it all the way through and removes the saw. The assistants regroup. One takes the saw as the others remove the canvas. And there's the beautiful girl in the iron cage. Uncomfortable, but unharmed. So how did the magician make it look like the girl in the cage was sliced in two? Here are the secrets. The cage is, in fact, as sturdy as it appears. It's got to be in order to safely hold the girl inside. When she kneels down to climb in, she arches her back to fill the cage and make it look even harder than it is. As the halves are secured, she keeps her back arched, and the cage looks almost too small to contain her. But when she bends down, we can see that this is only an illusion. She has more room than we imagine. Once the cage is in its mount, the girl has plenty of room to roll over onto her back. In this position, she's able to slide some of the metal straps away, allowing her to drop down out of the bottom. As he saws, the magician uses his skills as a mime to make it look like he's struggling to cut through flesh and bone. In reality, the girl has rotated onto her back, slipped out of the secret metal bands, and lowered herself safely below the path of the saw. Who says show business isn't glamorous? Here's a look at her movements without the canvas. See, there are two sections that have been rigged to secretly slide away and give her enough room to slip down. In this provocative position, she's in no danger of being touched by the saw blade as it appears to cut through the gap in the cage. Good thing, because this is a real saw and it does cut close. However, the teeth have been filed down to nothing with a power grinder, just to be on the safe side. By the time the assistants remove the fabric, the girl inside has replaced the sliding metal bands, flipped back onto her knees, and waits to once again fill the cage with her loveliness. And those are the secrets.
Next, the magician shows you how he can summon spirits from another world to leave their mark. And plunge a rose through a girl without leaving his. Plus, find out the secret to how street magicians bite a quarter in half. And then, the magician walks through the spinning blades of a giant industrial turbofan. We'll expose how he does it. When magic's biggest secrets finally revealed returns.
The magician will now attempt to solve a mathematical problem with a little help from the spirit world. He begins by showing us two old-fashioned slates. Kids used to write on these in school. The original laptops. He takes one of the blank slates and uses a piece of chalk to write some numbers. 7, 5, and a plus sign. Not exactly high finance, but it is a kid's chalkboard. Maybe he wants to go easy on the spirits. He leaves the solution blank, then places the two slates face to face. And just so that the spirits will have something to write with, he tosses in a piece of chalk. I think magical spirits would have magical chalk, but this is his trick, not mine. He gives the slates a couple of shakes, and presto, there's the solution. 7 plus 5 equals 12. Adding was never so spooky. How does the magician solve this magical math problem and get the spirits to give him the answer? The secret here lies within the two identical slates. First of all, they're not identical. One of the slates has been cleverly rigged with a secret panel that fits within the frame. This thin piece of slate already has the solution written on it. The magician writes the mathematical problem and solution on the back of this panel, then loads it into the frame so we can't see the numbers. When he puts the two slates together, this secret panel flips down into the other slate, revealing the solution.